All right, so today we're gonna go from this to this. That's coming up next. Hello everyone, this is Dwayne with Edge of Nowhere Farm, and we're coming to you here today at the very end of July. And you know what, here in Arizona, July means monsoon season for us. So monsoons, if you guys don't know, that just means, we're in Phoenix, it is hot, it's 115 to 120. But when we get up real hot like that in the afternoons, basically almost every afternoon, we get clouds that come in from the north, south, east, and west, blow a bunch of dust, and a lot of times they'll give us rain, and it really is our rainy season. So what's great about that time is all of our trees around the farm love it because they're getting extra water. We can sometimes turn off the irrigation for a day or two, so we don't have to water. But what it also does is it brings a lot of wind in. So we already know that our wind typically comes in from the west. It blows to the east, and so we have, when we stake trees and things like that, we'll actually stake them so it protects against that wind. But we also get wind from other directions, so we'll get winds from basically any direction like anybody can. Sometimes what will happen when that does occur is we'll actually get some breakage on some of our trees because of the intense wind that blows through at the front of those monsoon storms. So last year, in fact, it was almost this exact same time last year, we had that happen with our brand new Kadota Fig, and I'll link that Kadota Fig video here so you can see that tree. But last year we actually had a very, very strong storm that really broke a lot of branches off of some of the trees here, but that was a brand new planting. It had only actually been in the ground just under a year. So it really had a hard time with that. It had grown very, very quickly. It had gotten kind of whippy, and I didn't get enough of the branching taken down through pruning to really stop it from losing some of those branches, and it did. So last year we had that storm come through, broke a couple branches off, and Lori and I looking at the branches thinking, middle of July, not supposed to be able to do this, but let's take some cuttings off of this, stick them in some dirt, and let's see what happens. So we took 3 cuttings off of that tree, put them into these, I think they're about 3.5 gallon pots, put them into 3.5 gallon pots with nothing else. We didn't have rooting hormone, didn't have anything special. We did have some basic potting mix. So we threw that in a pot, stuck that stick down into there, watered it every day, and guess what? This year, 2 out of those 3 cuttings are actually turning into small trees. So we figured, well, had some monsoons, a lot of winds last night. If we don't have any branches that are lost, let's go ahead and do some cuttings because there's a couple more trees that we would really like to get copies of, which is what we're doing today. I want to share that with you. So last year, so Kadota Fig. So this is actually one of the cuttings, so I wanted to kind of show that to you. We actually had started it, it was just a stick. It was a little bigger than that, about 2 to 3 inches taller, but we put it in this nice big pot just to kind of see what it would do, and it is doing fantastic. So this is a year-old cutting, so you can see it actually has really started to put on some strong growth now that we're back into the monsoon season, and we've got a lot of nice, solid moisture and hot temperatures with a lot of sunshine. It's grown really good. It's about the size of my hips, so he's about 3 feet tall or so. And actually, like most of the other Kadotas, it's trying to put on some fruit. So you can see it's actually doing really, really good. So Kadota from last year, cutting in the middle of July, doing great. So what we're going to do today, before I go on, let's have Lori get a picture of a few other things too. So that's not the only cutting that we're doing. So we've actually done some other cuttings here during the summertime. We wanted to share that with you. So we've got a couple of Kadota figs. They're right here. Behind it is a Peter's honey fig. We actually took this as a winter cutting. And then over here is a blackjack fig. So we took that as a winter cutting as well. So we've actually only lost 1 cutting so far of the cuttings that we've tried as far as figs. So they're doing really well. Summer cuttings and winter cuttings, both doing well. Disclaimer, we are not professionals when it comes to replicating plants and replicating trees. These are just some things that we've kind of seen on YouTube, wanted to try out ourselves, so we're really kind of testing these things. I am pretty confident in the fig cuttings. I think they're going to do well, so we're going to share that with you today. But I did want to give you that disclaimer. Just because we can do it here or it's been successful for us here doesn't necessarily mean that that can be replicated in every situation, but it seems to do okay for us. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that we've got down here. So I've taken cuttings. We've got cuttings off of 3 of our fig varieties already. So what I wanted to do is get the other 2. We've got 5 total fig varieties. I'll link our fig videos here for you so you can see them all. But what I've got over here to my right is panache cuttings. So these are off of our panache fig tree. So I took those this morning. And then to my left, I have cuttings off of our brown turkey figs. And our brown turkey figs are really our most productive tree because it's our oldest fig tree. And we have two of those. So I've got cuttings off of those. They're fresh cuttings. One nice part about being out here during the summertime, I took these cuttings about a half an hour ago, and they're already completely dry at the bottom of the cutting because even though we have some moisture this morning, it's still very, very dry. So what I'm going to do, I just kind of want to walk you through what I'm going to be using this morning, and we're actually going to go ahead and do one here with you guys. So I always talk about protection because I think it's important. So I'm wearing my sunglasses because, hey, we're in the desert. I will be wearing a mask because I'm going to be messing with potting soil, and obviously gloves, just to make sure I'm not getting anything on there I don't want. I've got a nice little shovel here that we're going to be using to shovel out the potting soil. A pot, I think this is about a 2-gallon pot or so. Obviously I got my cuttings, and then we are going to be using rooting hormone this time. I wanted to give this a shot and see if we get better results if we use a rooting hormone. So we are going to use that. Just got this on Amazon, easy to find. You guys do a quick search. It's what? Garden Safe Take Root. I forget what this is, like $4 or something like that. And so, I mean, super cheap, and hopefully it'll give us a little more production. So I think that's about it. 5-gallon bucket I'm going to use to take the leaves off and keep the leaves. We'll use those as mulch, obviously. We reuse anything if it's organic here, so we'll be doing that as well. Okay, so this is a panache fig cutting. So what I really kind of want to focus on is kind of the more hard wood. So we got the tip that has a lot of new growth on it, and I might mess around a little bit with that here just to kind of give it a shot, but I am going to really kind of concentrate on the hardwood down here. So the harder part, older growth, it's thicker, it's got more water in it, and what we saw last year and with the cuttings we've done so far is we want to have a thickness of about this. I'm going to say it's probably about half an inch or so, maybe 3/4 of an inch, about half an inch to 3/4 of an inch diameter. So this is the cutting that we're using. Now, as far as the cuttings, the cutting themselves, we only want the wood. We don't need the green. So all we're going to do really is just pop these guys off. Get the leaves off, save those for mulch. And that's probably high enough. All right. What you want to do is you want to take a nice sharp pair of pruners, and you want to cut at an angle. So this is actually going to be down in the soil. So I want to have as much surface area exposed right here because root growth is going to occur there. And also each spot where we would normally get a branch can also root as well. And then of course at the top, what I really want to do at the top is I want to make sure that I'm getting an angle as well so I don't have any water pooling in there. We don't have a lot of moisture here, but in the end, I don't want to take any chances. So first thing I want to do is kind of judge the depth. So I know I want the cutting to come up above the soil, and I want to give it enough die back because it will die back some as it starts to pull some of the moisture down in to create those roots. So I probably want to get it to be about this height. So it's about 6 to 8 inches above the top of here. So looking at that, I also want to make sure I'm keeping one of these little nodes so you can see this kind of line that goes around the branch here. I want to keep this node because this is where I'm going to get some growth potentially. Definitely down in here I should. So I want to get right above one of those nodes, and I'm going to snip it at an angle. Save that because I may do another cutting. So now you can see, if I get this a little bit closer, so you get an idea of that angle. So that's what you want to do to make sure that you don't get any water pooling in the middle of that cutting. But that's about it. So that's our cutting. Next thing we're going to do is, this is the bottom of the rooting part of the cutting itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this rooting hormone. All you need to do is just dunk it. Tap off the extra. That's about it. I'm just going to take my finger and get a little bit more on some of these nodes. Potting soil that we use, you can get at Home Depot or Lowe's. It's that Organic Plus. You guys have probably all seen this. So pricing wise, it's one of your best bets as far as pricing. Comes in this nice big bag, but ultimately it's organic, which is obviously what we do here. Every time we're not interested in doing anything other than organic growing practices, so we're going to use something that's organic. So we use this because it's inexpensive, it's very easy to get. You can get it in bulk essentially, and it actually works really, really well. We use it for all of our potted plants here on the farm, and it does really, really well. So I'm going to use this. Okay, so we're at about the halfway point. So what I wanted to do, I want to talk a little bit about what we got in front of us here. So this soil, so we got it about halfway up the pot. When you're dealing with potting soil, the biggest thing with potting soil is you have no idea what the moisture content is in your potting soil. And when you're dealing with a new planting, whether you're transplanting something or in this case we're doing a cutting, things are typically either really, really dry or really wet, but more importantly, you need to make sure that there's plenty of moisture in there to get root growth going on. So obviously we're starting from scratch, but even with a transplant, same idea. So we're about halfway up here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some water, and I'm actually going to go ahead and water this in. So it's not going to be a lot because it's going to start running out pretty quick, but I want to make sure that this soil is nice and wet. And you can't guarantee that once you're done, because what can happen is potting soil is really, really good at retaining moisture, but it can also push it. So in the middle of the soil, you can literally get runoff. So if it's really dry and solid in the middle, when you go to water it, it'll actually just go to the sides of the pot and drain straight down. So what we like to do here whenever we're doing anything that's potted is stop about halfway, get it nice and drenched with soil, and then continue. So that's what I'm gonna do now. Okay, so we've got soil. Now I'm actually stopped. I don't want to go all the way up to the top. I probably could because this is actually going to compact quite a bit here in a minute, but I did want to stop because we are going to put wood chip mulch on the top of this when we're done. Okay, next step. So I've got probably enough soil here to go ahead and do the next step. Next thing we're going to do, you can use anything you want to. I've got just an old, I don't know, we were pruning. This looks like it's probably a moringa branch. So I think this is actually an old moringa branch that we didn't shred and chip up, but I've got an old moringa branch here. Really what it narrows down to, I want to make sure that it's wider than the cutting itself. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to punch a hole right in the middle of this. You'll see some water coming out of the bottom, which is a good sign. So punch a hole right in the middle, all the way down. And then all I'm going to do is take my cutting and put it right into that hole. I do want it all the way down. It's okay if it's a little shy of the bottom, but I mean, it's not going to hurt it for it to be all the way down because there's going to be root growth that comes out from the sides. So that goes right in. I'm going to try to keep it as straight as I can. And then what I want to do is I want to compress the soil so it completely compacts against the cutting. It'll hold it in place, and you want that contact. All right, so you can see after I've done that, I'm pushing water out, which is a good sign because I know I've got plenty of water retention in the soil. And then we got the beginning of our cutting. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna go ahead and top this off. So when we come back to you, you're gonna kind of see the completed project. All right, so here's the finished product. So really what it narrows down to with this is we've got our fig trees over here, so those are done. We've got them nice and mulched, so we got a nice thick layer of wood chip mulch. That wood chip mulch is probably 1 to 2 inches thick, and then of course you saw the rest of the process. So what we got is we have 2 of the brown turkey cuttings here, so we'll keep an eye on those over the next few weeks. 2 panache figs here, and we talked about these earlier. So brand new cuttings that have been here for about a month, month and a half, and cuttings that are a year old or a little less. But ultimately this is the process. So just thought it was really cool, something we wanted you guys to kind of see from the beginning with us, and we'll kind of walk you through and give you progress updates as we go. So I just want to thank you for joining us today. You know what, if you haven't done so already, hey, subscribe to our channel. We'd love to have you as a subscriber. You know, we talk a lot about a lot of different things here. We really kind of focus during the summertime on fruit trees. So if you're really into that, hey, subscribe to our channel, follow us along. And hey, like and share the video. If you got anybody that's into this kind of thing, that might be interested in kind of what we're doing here in a harsh desert environment, you know, like and share it with them. Really love to have them kind of follow along as well. And hey, if you got any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section down below. Even suggestions. You know, this is new for us. We're just kind of giving this a shot, trying some stuff out, kind of testing them here. But you know, you got information that you can give us, kind of help us through this process. We'd love to see that as well. So if you can leave those down below. So just want to thank you for joining us today and remind you, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere, so can you. What do you think? This one or this one? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna stop about halfway and we're actually gonna fill this with water. So I'm gonna take a quick break and grab some water. All right, so we're about halfway up the pot. Now this soil here is really loose, which is kind of on purpose. So what I wanna do is I actually wanna get, I need to get the mask off. I don't wanna touch my face. Let's try that again. And hey, you know what? I don't have anything else to say.